Welcome back, folks, to World of Warships Legends. I'm Soopa-Dave, and today we're going to be talking about the Halloween crew, right? The 9 Halloween commanders, and the guide on how good they are. Now, I've done this video a couple times. It's been too long each time. I'm going to try to make this one much quicker, but I do have things to go over in the beginning, right? For people watching this, there's going to be people that buy every commander, and there's going to be people that won't buy any commander. So, me telling somebody whether to get them or not is not the most effective way. I will use a 0 out of 10 scale on these commanders. Also, for those of you guys that have been playing for 38 years and 200 million hours that know everything, there are people that need to do their bureaus. In fact, most of the people that watch my channel probably still have bureaus to do, right? So, with that being said, you have to take that into consideration when you have people like Halsey or, other people that you're going to use. Also, I love different opinions. Put them down in the comments, right? These are just my opinions. These aren't facts. As long as you're not rude, I absolutely love seeing different comments and I always respond to them. But let's get started, guys. We're going to start with Abe Hellsinger. Now, I want to be clear when we start this. I like a lot of these commanders. Abe Hellsinger is the one that I don't care for. And I know that's going to surprise some people, but, right? I am a huge Japanese destroyer fan, right? They're my favorite destroyer line. I play them a lot. I do not use Abe Hellsinger. Why is that? Well, his base trait is terrible. The smoke screen radius doesn't really help you. Uh, it seems like he would be flexible because he has observant range and Mordor, and he has twist and track or perceptive, or you could build into torpedoes with more or less or fragile threat, but you have no in between. You're either full gunboat with this guy or full torpedo. And when you have Tanaka with a better base trait for free commander or Kurita, for the gunboat side, I mean, I just don't. He's a 6 out of 10. Not having Look at Me Now in this slot kills him. He would be one of the better commanders if he had Look at Me Now, but he don't. You have to either lose all your health or you have to lose all your detection. And there's no in between, and that really bites a big one. For me, personally, Japanese destroyers being my favorite, I use Sella. I could see people also liking Space Fishy. I actually use Sella for torpedoes, and for gunboat, I'd probably go Kurita or Yukikaze, right? So I have a tendency to like a balanced build myself. But that being said, 6 out of 10. He's one of the few guys I don't have much interest in this one. Victor Einstein. This is going to cause a lot of chaos down below because it's American Commander. There's a million good American commanders. This is the one time where I will show you the commanders that he's up against, right? Um, American commanders, there's a lot of good ones, right? You could make arguments for Norman Scott, he has an edge because you can use him in the bureaus. You have Kincaid, who's also in the bureaus. There's Multiplier. There is Beepley. There's Baltimore, and then there's Einstein. Okay, until Janeway came up, this wasn't even close on my heavy cruisers, and I didn't realize it at first. Beepley's also a good option if you like stealth radar. And I know everybody's gonna have a different opinion here. There will not, everybody loves. I can tell you, American cruisers like American battleships. Everybody thinks every one of them is the best. There will be somebody that probably says each one of these are the best. But for me, uh, I know now, American heavy cruisers. I've been going towards the Captain Janeway recently. But my second option is Victor Einstein. And I think for most players, Victor Einstein is actually the better option than Janeway. He's a little bit more flexible, right? Now, that being said, let's go into what makes Einstein so good. His base trait is whirl round. For American heavy cruisers, this is a really good base trait where they have that slow turret traverse speed. Okay? Also, he has Ingenious, again, boosting traverse speed in a slot that would normally be for HE. And not only that, but you can see how many people are targeting your ship. The second slot is intuitive. Intuitive is one of the most underrated perks for American heavy cruisers because you don't have to use fully packed when you have it, and you can take refill station to help you reload out. Why is that? Well, if you know where that closest enemy is to you, you know probably whether he's in radar range or not. Okay, this almost always saves me a radar, and I don't wouldn't want fully packed on him. Having fully packed would help his flexibility, but in my opinion, Victor Einstein, 8 out of 10. He is the only commander that I know of for the Americans. In fact, I'm sure he's the only commander that takes ingenious and intuitive, and they're not hurting your HE slots. Like I think he's the only commander that, or he's not hurting your AP. You still have punch through and fixated. I think he's the only commander that does that. And his base trade is huge, right? That's a good one. Very underrated commander in my opinion. I know it's a loaded deck for the American cruiser commanders. I understand that. That's why he's not a 9 out of 10. Now, Hyde. Listen, I don't tell people to buy commanders or not, but if you were going to and you don't get Hyde, you're a crazy person. I'm sorry. Unless you don't play German battleships. Why is that? If you're making a value choice in this game, Hyde and Dunkirk are the two best commanders, in my opinion. Why is that? Because now that presets come out, both of them are hybrid commanders where you can use main guns and secondaries, and uh, you can build them much differently, right? Hyde has the better base trait out of the two. She has the better unique skill. But it's really not a comparison versus her and Dunkirk, just explaining why these two are so good. Because there's three major reasons here, right? You have presets so you can use all these builds that I'm about to talk about. But first of all, you have flambeau cannoneer and marksmanship, but you can also do your secondaries. That's huge. In today's game, this is why it makes him so powerful, like Dunkirk. And Dunkirk doesn't get talked enough about this, but Dunkirk also has Porcupine, where you can use in a secondary ship where you can still buff your main guns and get some accuracy out of them on a secondary ship where there's like Preussens and the new, I hate to use this term, but meta is basically distance play right now. This is huge for any secondary ship. Also, if you're going main gun accuracy, let's say you're building a preset too, right? You have the extra heals of Master Mechanic, a very rare thing for accuracy commanders for the most part. There's more of them coming out recently, but again, pretty rare. And then um, having the flexibility to do all them things is huge, right? It's such a big thing. He is a 10 out of 10. Even his unique skill can be fun to play around with sometimes, right? This is the best commander in my game, or my opinion, along with Dunkirk because of the flexibility that you get with it. And his base trait's good. Like, that's a pretty solid base trait. Having more health is always good, all right? But now, again, what makes him even stronger is having the multiple presets so you don't have to switch them all the time. You can build secondaries, you build into accuracy. It's whatever you want. Plus, he does have fight fire with fire and running with scissors, which for some builds can be a lot of fun if that's something that you're into. All right, next one, Furioso or Furio. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm not. You guys aren't here for that. Now, I'm gonna say 7 out of 10, and I know there's people that love this commander. The problem is you have Bay, and Bay is such a good commander with a amazing destroyer base trait and a huge flexibility with what he can do, especially with presets now. Plus, you can use them in bureaus. Her base trait not awful, right? Having extra destroyer speed is nice, but it's not crazy good. Her unique skill being mosquito brutes, it's not bad. In especially for me as a Japanese destroyer fan, torpedo detectability is huge. However, when you do the over the course of the battle DPM, right, you're gaining at if you have this commander maxed out, you're gaining 30% DPM on reload, but you're losing 40% on torpedo damage. Now I understand torpedo detectability make it harder, you'll hit more torps, right? So it offsets that a little bit. However, it doesn't seem like you gain enough off of it. And just my opinion, it's not that she's a bad commander. This is a cool skill that makes, if you're like especially like something like a Z44 that has decent torpors and you want to have fun, this is a fun commander. But when you putting resources into this versus Bay, there's no comparison. Bay is the much better commander to put your resources in if you can only put it into one. Um, so just keep that in mind, guys. It's not that she's a bad commander. She's different and fun, and I like that. But she has Bay as her main commander that's used on almost most destroyers. Also a great destroyer captain and used in a lot of the important German bureaus. So it's a tough one. Tesla, 6 out of 10. It's not that she's bad. If you get her, she's okay. Her unique skill or her base trait is midnight oil, so it does help traverse speed a little bit and rudder shift. Not bad. And her unique skill is boomsticks. I am not a fan of boomsticks. All right. Hurting your shell grouping is never good. Hurting your main guns on a battleship like this, just not good. Right? The only commander. I mean, the problem is with Tesla here. There is so many German secondary battleship commanders. Hyde is better than her. Bismarck is better than her. Naomi's better than her. Right? She's just so low. I would take Ciliax is better than her. The free to play commander is better than her, in my opinion. Okay? She's just not good. In fact, I'm going to say 4 out of 10. I just realized how bad she was compared to all the other ones. All right? That's just my opinion. Just I don't care for her, right? Um, Also, when you compare that to the free to play commander, Ciliax is better in every way because he's got a better unique skill, and his base trait is also way better. They're not. I wouldn't even if you get her. I wouldn't even use her. She is the worst commander in this group. Now that I'm thinking about it, Lightful. One that at first I didn't care for, okay? And I know Andre Lip is out there and he's a good commander, but he's more leans towards the light cruisers with his base trait. Lightful, if you have extra points, this is the difference, right? Kuzganov, great commander. Um, and I'm not saying he's not. But if you are a person that wants a commander that's going to help you out and you have a ton of commander resources, this is a guy that will do it. And I never really bought into that at first. In my opinion, he's a 9 out of 10. And I would have never said that probably a year ago. His base rate is Phantom Bane, so it's really good. Anytime you're getting cruiser main battery, you're getting main battery to reload, it's a good base rate. Let's just be honest. Only thing kind of hurts him here, first trait, beyond range, Russians already have good range, so it's not critical that you have that, or you burn it down XXL. I would have loved to have Ingenious in that first slot. All right, second slot, Intuitive. Again, saving you from using fully packed, in my opinion. When you know where the nearest guy is from you, you don't eat torps. You're less likely to use a radar incorrectly. And punch through is his base trait. So you can kind of see he's very similar to Einstein outside of not having Ingenious in the first slot. An added bonus to him is he has fully packed. If you want the flexibility of fully packed, you can. I always lean towards refill station, in my opinion, especially on him where you're going to have him maxed out to get his benefit because his unique skill is Fear My Roar. And this is not a good skill until you get it maxed out, right? Because at Cruiser, the one before it is 4%. on both compared to 6%. Not huge. But when you get the 8% grouping and the 8% dispersion, and I know it's a cruiser hit to your cruiser detectability, but let's be honest, Russian cruisers already have terrible detectability anyway, so what are you really hurting? um, you do notice it on especially the Russian super cruisers, and I think the heavy cruisers as well. But for example, on Stalingrad, he turns the ship super lethal. Okay, it's already accurate, but you get hyper accurate. Or there's other ones, Petrol. There's just on them really big cruisers Russia has that you're using AP. Man, when you could put AP where you want it, this is not one that I would have thought a year ago I would have liked until I put my resources into them and tried it. And I would say 8 or 9 out of 10. But again, you have to understand this is more for a person that has a long time in the game and has the extra resources. This is not a commander I would get if you're a beginner. I would lean towards Kuzganov until you get that opportunity. Sanyo, again, I'm a German destroyer fan, right? My favorite destroyer line. I don't really care for Sanyo. All right. Tanaka's got the better base trait. Sure, he's got this sprint master thing, but it murders your torp range. Um, it's not bad, right? But you're in your perceptive slot, so you can't use located. It's not a great perk to start with. It's fun, right? And I would use it if it was in a different slot probably, but it's in perceptive. And you have to understand you just still got to take out other destroyers. So, and his unique base trade is not that great. So you gonna put your points into Tanaka, where you gonna use them in bureaus, or you gonna with a better base trait, like he's a better commander, or are you just gonna use? Do you want this trait? And I don't. Not over perceptive. That's just me. 6 out of 10 on this one. I know people were expecting me to really like the Japanese destroyer commanders because I'm a Japanese destroyer fan. Just not it. Mordoff. Again, this is gonna come down to how much resources you have. Why is that? This commander is exactly Halsey with a few exceptions. Halsey, okay, Mordoff, in my opinion, is a 9 out of 10. The issue though is Halsey, right? Halsey is the exact same commander. Base trait on him is AP damage, destroyer main battery reload. Obviously, a little bit better on Mordoff. Outside of that, they're exactly the same till you get to sheltered arms. Now, very good perk, and the one thing I will say though, guys, this is a slightly overrated perk. I use Mordoff on all my American premium destroyers. I love it, but you can still get your Everybody thinks this can't means you can't knock out your guns. They can still be destroyed. Your torpedoes can still be destroyed. What it stops is them being incapacitated, not destroyed. All right, very good perk. Do not get me wrong. And a very good commander. Like I said, 9 out of 10. This perk though gets a little overhyped. Also, Halsey is used in so many bureaus, right? If and he's kind of the go-to for the Americans. If you are a newer player, build into Halsey. If you can only choose one of them, you got to take Halsey because the bureaus. If you have the extra resources, throw it into Mordoff. Use Mordoff. You'll be very happy. Splendito. This is one again that I've changed my opinion on a little bit, right? Because he's very much like Gerwin, except for he has a better base trait. The difference being is unlike Halsey, Gerwin isn't using a ton of bureaus. He's using a few. So this one is going to be up to the player. I would say an 8 out of 10. He would. So what makes him unique is like Gerwin, he has the quick fix. here, meaning you can take rather be torching, which is not something normally huge unless you're a British kind of destroyer or a Russian, because you're going to be uh, being an obnoxious little turd waffle, or in a Russian destroyer for the most part, which is nice because he does have sidestep, and his base trait is destroyer gun traverse speed, which is very handy for Russian destroyers. All right, so everything about this is very handy. The only thing is, he's very much like Gerwin. His unique skill is not that good, right? So basically, you're taking him for over Gerwin for the base trait. In my opinion, if he had twist and track with perceptive here, and you could take twist and track, he'd be by far the best destroyer commander. But with Trubisky and Gerwin, a lot of flexibility, a lot of good commanders. Kind of like, I know that sounds crazy because it's Russian, and there's not a lot of premium commanders, but there's options there. And the edge he gives you, is it worth the extra points, resources? That's up to you guys. You're basically doing it for the base trait. Again, I don't know. The more I have extra resources, the more I like him, and the more I'm using him. That's just my take. Anyway, guys, I love different opinions down below. I always talk about, or I always answer comments. So as long as you're not rude or disrespectful, I want to hear your guys' opinions down below. You guys have a super wonderful day, and I will see you folks next time. Have a good one, folks.